Let's get the latest on the ground and speak once more to Salah Abulgasen, aid worker for Islamic Relief, who's been keeping us updated. Salah, thank you for taking the time to speak to us once more. You're there in Gaziantep. Just give us an idea about what you're able to do on the ground at the moment.
Well, we're working around the clock. I'm actually in Adiamani, which is the neighboring district that's also been badly affected. We're here today delivering food packages to people. I just wanted to sort of show you, listening to your report, I was just talking to one of the locals now, and in this direction over here, 17 people on this site are confirmed dead. There are more than 40 people still under the rubble. Okay, they're still looking for bodies, unfortunately. As you rightly mentioned, what we're hearing and what we understand is, unfortunately, and even if you look around, if you just see in the distance, the mountains, the snow, this is probably the coldest location. It's about -3 here at the moment. People are very, very cold. So unfortunately, it is expected that despite the fact that there are around or maybe slightly more than 40 people in this exact site over here, they're expected not to survive. We're praying and hopeful and trying to be optimistic. Organizations like ourselves are working around the clock. Today we've come out, we're distributing food. We're going village by village, town by town, wherever the needs are. We're trying to provide people with whatever it is that we can. We've finished a series of blanket distributions. Lots of people now have shelter. Now it's about food. The next stage we're also starting to talk about, we're also trying to think about what are the plans in the longer term. It's still very much the emergency phase. It's still very much fundamental that we provide people with the essentials of food, of shelter, of hygiene kits, of trying to ensure that we take care of their immediate needs. But understandably, when you're talking to people and meeting with them, they're physically, emotionally, mentally broken. You're seeing it now. And what you're also starting to see, and this is what we want to report on and really bring to people's attention, that the survivors who've been through everything they've been through, the big risk and issue now is that the absence of food, the absence of shelter, the absence of provision of the supplies will lead to death. We're hearing reports both in Syria and here in Turkey of people dying of pneumonia, people dying of the cold. And this is what we want to try to avoid. And we're really calling out to everybody to support efforts with organizations like Islamic Relief. My colleagues across the border in Syria are reporting exactly the same, but if anything, it's far more challenging because of the absence of the coordinated efforts in Syria. And there, you know, the medical needs are far greater. The hospitals were already stretched. The resources were already stretched. The feeling from people in Syria when we talk with them is really simple. It's a case of, you know, for 12 years we feel we've been forgotten about. The humanitarian crisis was already at a high level. This has gone and taken it to a new level. Please don't forget us, people. We are here, we are dying, we are suffering. You know, there's a generation of children that I'm consistently talking about because fundamentally for me, it's an essential that we let people know the psychological impact of multiple displacements. You know, some of the children we were talking to in Syria, they didn't move when the earthquake came. Normalization of trauma is something that no child should ever have to face and suffer. But children in Syria, when the earthquake struck, some of them didn't move. They were saying to their parents, it's just another airstrike. And that in itself is a message to the world that we should not forget the innocent people in Syria who are suffering with this crisis. So we're really appealing to everyone to continue to support efforts of organizations like ourselves. We're doing our best. It's a real struggle. We're also calling for the key players around the world and the international community to ensure that that humanitarian corridor is open, that aid can flow in as easy as it needs to without any restriction, without any challenge, because the longer we delay, the more lives will be lost.
Yeah, just to update you, Salah, with what we're learning this end is that the government is maybe going to help the public support that's raised more than 60 million now, the Disasters Emergency Committee. But what are you seeing there in terms of the distribution, in terms of the international aid teams getting in? Are they able to get to all these areas at the moment?
Look, I mean, nobody could have ever prepared for this. And what tends to happen, I've been involved in enough disasters and emergency that initially the questions start coming rightfully now, a week on, who's received, who hasn't. Yes, there are still places we're going to, like here, like some of the small agricultural areas that have been affected, where there are farmers, there are small communities. We were in a village around 2 hours ago where there are maybe the population of that small village was 200 people. They were yet to receive any food packs from anyone. So there are still areas, and I don't point blame at anybody. I know everybody is working as hard as possible. I know there are amazing efforts going on. We're seeing a really a special community feeling. People are giving condolences to each other, showing emotional support to each other. It's a real challenge. It's a real difficulty. We're all doing what we can, but nobody could have prepared for anything on this scale. The size and scale of this has meant that, I assume, I hope not, but I assume in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, there will still be serious needs because it's the sheer scale that no one can do anything about.